Good morning and welcome to the Courage Coalition. Today we are going to unravel, dissect, peel back the layers of the grip. We all have it, and maybe in all places in life, but definitely at least in one. When I talk about the grip, what do I mean? That expectation, that thought that something has to look exactly like you think it should have to look in order to be right, successful, powerful, impactful, all of the things. We have this grip on our lives, whether it be the way we parent, the way we show up in our marriage, in our relationships, our businesses, the way we think our employees should perform, should have loyalty and desire to be in that space the way you think they should be in our children's lives. So not just them parenting, but the way we see what is happening in our children's lives, in the event, in the podcast, in the social media presence, in the I can go on and on. There is nothing in this world that at some point we have not had this grip of what it's supposed to look like. And that grip is exactly why you do not see the change. You do not see the pivot. You do not see the beauty in what is happening. I am just coming back from a week in Costa Rica, my first women's retreat as a facilitator. And boy, was it beautiful. But I didn't have the knowing that it would be beautiful. I didn't have the knowing when I first felt that this was something for me, that it was going to work, that people would actually sign up, right? And I remember in the very beginning having this idea and wanting to share it with a specific individual, wanting this person to walk alongside me. And she was a hard yes. And we began planning. And we realized that what we were doing was actually not a part of what we were trying to share with the women that chose to sign up. What we were doing, and especially for me, I only speak for me, did not feel aligned with what I had envisioned, what I had dreamed of. And so we took a really hard pivot. And in that pivot, we could have felt like a failure. We could have felt like this wasn't for us. Maybe because it's so hard, this is just not for us. Because we do that a lot, right? That vision, it was just not for us. But remember, we talk about this as life is hard, but it's simple. And when I say that, what I mean is it's simple because when you truly listen, when you truly work in flow versus force, releasing the grip, life is simple. And so we took a hard pivot. We lost thousands of dollars and we redesigned. And we redesigned in a way that felt aligned to both of us in different ways. And because of that flow, because of that beauty, we created something that we wanted to share. We created something that other women actually wanted to sign up for. Not because it was easy, not because it was, what do I want to say, very clear of what they were going to get from it, right? There was no clarity for them. They just said yes because we said yes. We released the grip of what was supposed to be and allowed it to happen however it was supposed to be. That is just one example of how grip has ruled my life, how it has defined my life. And I bring this topic to you guys today because of that reflection over the years of how I have held on to an expectation of not only myself, but others. And when I did that, how things never felt in flow. They never felt exactly right. It was constant pressure, constant push, constant showing up how others thought I should show up. And I think back and I can have regrets, right? But when we have regrets, all we're doing is living in the past. When we look back and actually look at it in reflection and growth and allowing ourselves to do and be something different than what was, when we don't believe what has always been has to be what always is, we get to move forth because all of that is evidence of what has and has not worked. It's not a label. It's not a, man, you really screwed up. It's a tool. And, we can do this in parenting so tremendously. We think about this expectation, this dream we want for our children and how they're going to get there. And we believe that if they do it our way, all will be well in the world. They will have joy and passion and all the things. But it's our expectations. That's our dream. We as parents get to show our children what it looks like to live in their heart, in their dream. But we get so wrapped up in the thought processes of what is a successful child? I am a good parent because my kid did X. No, you're not. You're a good parent because you supported your child in whatever way was calling to them. And you guys, this goes back to early childhood. There's no part of our lives that this does not reflect. It is showing them that they didn't have to be the best t-ball player. Let's think about that for a second. Pressure from the moment they begin becoming curious to show up in a specific way. It takes a really brave, courageous parent to say it's okay. That's just not the way it has to be. It's the way it gets to be if you want it to be, but it's not the way it has to be. Giving them the opportunity to fall in school, in sports, in relationships, in dreams, in all of it. Because when they fall, they realize something, they learn something about themselves. I'll be talking to friends, my children's friends, and I'll say something. They'll say, I screwed up. I didn't like what I signed up for. And when I ask them, does that mean you screwed up or does that mean you learned something about yourself? There's this aha moment of, wow, I've never thought of it like that. What a travesty. Not for that specific child, but for our culture, our society, that we're not showing them that they don't have to know how. They get to be curious. They get to find out things about themselves that aren't for them and that are for them. I could go on and on when it comes to parenting because we all do it. We all have it in some way. I look back and I could have so many regrets. And all I know today is that how I show up today is how I get to show them how they get to show up if they choose to. That we don't have to do it the way we've always done it, the way we were modeled and shown. That grip isn't for me any longer. And my kids don't always understand, right? Because I instilled beliefs in them when that amygdala was being formed long ago about truth. And all of a sudden, I'm undoing the truth. I'm undoing my truth. And that's got to be pretty scary for them. But I just get to keep showing up in the understanding that we were born to evolve. We're born to change. We're born to learn about ourselves and how we want to do things differently, how we want to experience life. And the reason this comes up so really passionately and beautifully is that while we were away at retreat, I had this beautiful experience for everyone that was together. One of the days was about play. And in the Nicoya Peninsula, there is an amazing phenomenon called the bioluminescent. And it's an algae in the water that actually glows in the dark. And I had scheduled this to happen and we were going to go do this. And there's a couple things here I want you to hear me say is that one, we're in a foreign country and that's very, very intimidating to a lot of people. Two, we are kayaking in the dark. You cannot see anything. Three, people had a lot of beliefs about what was in that water, right? A lot of fears. But the goal is to live in play, to see what happens when we're curious and we're brave and we get to do things that change the way we look at it. And so our guide, his name was Lewis, and he was just this passionate, filled human. But he had a grip on our experience. He had a grip on how we should do this to do it the right way. And that grip for some of us was really hard. It took a little bit away at first from the experience because he wanted us here and then he wanted us there and then he wanted us to see it this way and he wanted us to watch. And what he was missing is that we were experiencing it our way. And he was so afraid of what our experience was going to look like because it didn't look like his, that we would be disappointed. And when I think about that, I think back to all the times I've had an expectation of a trip or an experience or even a dinner. And I've had this expectation that I was holding on to so tightly that I, without a doubt, changed the way my children, the guests, our family experienced that because of how I thought it should look, because of how I felt it should be felt. Every day we do this. And so when I was reflecting on the retreat, I reminded myself in writing, don't ever forget Lewis's story, because what he missed was the laughter. These grown women who were laughing out loud, not only at the absolute phenomenon of what we were seeing, but also of the expectation, the behaviors, the lack of ability to kayak together, right? There was so much joy at the same time of what some of us were also saying, okay, and here's where I'm going to bring myself in, is that I had this immediate frustration with him. Lewis, calm down. It's okay. It was my expectation still though, because I wanted everybody to enjoy it. And I could feel their frustration with we're trying, we can't get there, right? All of the stuff. And it took from that experience at first. And then I had to just let it go. His expectation was not for me. And my expectation of what every person that said yes was having was not for me. It's for them. It's their experience. It's their memory. And when I was able to take a step back and just listen, just be, just watch and observe, the power was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. What I'm not telling you is that there were two individuals in those kayaks out on that wild water in the dark who were deathly afraid of water. And they got to bring joy to a fear. They got to step forth in spite of that fear because they were surrounded by people who supported them, who knew that they would have their back. And they got to experience something they've never got to experience because they stepped outside of that fear. Our grip on what we think we know, on what we think our reality is, on what we think the next thing looks like, is literally creating a wall of never feeling it. It's creating the resistance on actually making it happen. We talk about business and how we expect to have this many followers or this bottom line. This is our gross revenue, or this is how many customers I'm going to get. I could go on and on. This is how my employees are going to act. but that grip is actually preventing you from the growth. When we take a step back and ask ourselves, how do I want to feel? How do I want to impact, right? Because when we start a business, it's not because it's easy, it's because we want to have an impact, whether that be on a specific community, on the way a specific industry is looked at from the outside. Maybe it's the impact of breaking generational, cycles. There's so many reasons that we individually decide to start businesses and not work for somebody. It's not easy, but it is simple. It is simple because when you hear and listen and respect and respond to your own desires, your own passions, your own dreams, no one else's, the resistance quiets. It is one of the most beautiful gifts we will ever give ourselves if we're brave enough to release it. If we're brave enough to quit holding on so darn tight that we can't even feel what is next. I'm going to end this with the grip again, just one more example of this trip and how much it's taught me. And I was on a flight. So I was flying from Liberia, Costa Rica to Denver, Colorado. That was my first connection. And it was late. We had an unexpected delay because one of the cleaning crew fell and broke his leg. Yeah, imagine that. And so immediately I could have this grip. And you guys, a couple years ago, I've got to get home. I've been gone for 7 days. I've got to get to my family. And there was just this sense of, interesting. Wonder what this means. Not in fear, not in anything. I knew I was getting home one way or the other. Even with the flight delays of the FDA and all the things that are happening here in States, I knew in my heart I was getting home. And I got on that plane finally it was about an hour, 20 minutes delayed. And so there was a question, can I make my connection in Denver? And I was just like, okay, well, if not, not. If so, so. I'll still get home. It just may be the next day. And I was blessed with the most beautiful experience while on that flight. Would I have been blessed with that experience with if I didn't have the same mindset? I don't know. You guys, I can't tell you that. All I know is that I got onto that flight with no expectations, with no knowledge that I was going to be on a flight for the next 5.5 hours and what I was going to do in that time. And there was a flight attendant on that flight that rocked my world, literally rocked my world. What a light, what a gift to this world. And every time he got on the intercom to give an update on where we were, how we were happening, all the things, it was with such joy. He made that whole plane laugh at some time or another. He brought light to people that were possibly going to miss their connections in Denver, because there was about 32 people that had tight connections at this point. And at the end of every announcement, he said, "Love you, mean it." And I know it seems so small, but I want you to ask yourself, when do we forget to just be in the moment? For me, I could feel it. He meant it. He truly meant it. He wouldn't have said it over and over again if not. I heard "love you, mean it" at least 15 times in that 5.5 hours. And every time it awakened something in me. For those of you that don't know, the name of the retreat was called Awaken. It was a gift that we wanted to really bring to heart what is already inside of us, to awaken the truth of who we are instead of constantly listening to the noise, to that of what we're supposed to be, of what our culture, our families, our society says we're supposed to be. Even ourselves, let's own it. Those beliefs that were instilled so early have so much pressure on us. And so when I was sitting with that, love you, mean it, I was just overwhelmed with knowing, because I do love deeply. I do love complete strangers, and that may be foreign to some people, and that's okay. And I mean it. I mean it from the depths of my soul. And what he did is he was being seen in all of his uniqueness, in all of his passion, in a way that I believe God intended for him to be. As a flight attendant, he was changing people. He was showing up in purpose and passion exactly how he was, not overthinking it, just being him. And so much of our expectations of self are because we don't see ourselves. We don't love ourselves just as we are, just as we were born to be. We believe that it's supposed to look and feel and perform a certain way. And I just want you to hear me say that that's not the truth, that your truth has nothing to do with my truth, and my truth has nothing to do with the next person's truth, and that we should be celebrating this more and more in our families, in our workplaces, in our neighborhoods, in our culture. I put this grip on a part of a dream I have, and I'm not ready to share it yet. And there's no reason behind that except for the fact that I'm sitting with it. I'm living in the small moments. But what this flight attendant gave me, and I don't even know why love you, mean it, gave it to me, but it did, was this epiphany of a download on that 5.5 hour flight of the fact that I was gripping the why in this dream, in this download. Because I won't even call it a dream because it scares the crap out of me. But it is a dream because it's in my heart on purpose for a purpose. That's mine. And I don't have to grip what it looks like. I don't have to put a end goal or an end result or an end accomplishment before I start. I just get to start. I just get to start intentionally sharing that dream with the world, however it looks for me. Every step of the past 3.5 years have been some part of that. Not knowing, just believing, not knowing, just taking that next step in spite of fear, living in the curiosity, living in the courage. This podcast is all about that. Not my knowing, not my downloads, not my even ability to begin. Just that, oh my gosh, this feels really right. Why? And taking the next best step. So I ask you today, where are you allowing grip to stop you, to prevent you from taking the step that actually creates the change, the pivot, the growth that you are so desiring? Where are you allowing the grip, that expectation on what it looks like to be the exact reason it never happens? Because there will never be perfect. It will never be a blueprint designed right for you in front of you so you know the end result. It will only happen when you take that next best step with hands wide open, being willing to fall and being willing to show up authentically and vulnerably in whatever step it is. I cannot thank you enough for continuing to follow this journey, to continue to follow the podcast. Please remember that sharing with those you love could be their thing. Reviewing, downloading, all the things helps us grow, helps the voice, the stories grow into the world. And that's the point. Sharing everyday stories of humans who have stepped forth in courage, in not knowing, just courage. So until next time, love you, mean it.